One of the things I learned from psychedelics and meditation is there's a nonverbal level where the bandwidth for communication just expands like crazy, and we can communicate with intention and feeling and know what we're each saying right now. There's no interpretation problem. Oh, what did you mean? You know where they're coming from. So there was that. And in that was just love like I never felt before. It actually gave me a feeling of belonging I never had.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Psychedelic Conversations. We have Dean Salvadore in the house. Welcome, Dean. So good to have you.
Thank you very much, Susan. It's good to be here. Yeah, I'm 64 now. I turned 65 on Halloween this year.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised by a single mother who had a little trouble picking out men. And the last rotation the second husband was rather bigoted about boys without fathers. So it turned into kind of a mess towards the end of, around my 18th year, which is when I was graduating from high school. And then the arguments, generally, boys and men and their fathers have arguments. Well, mine was really more than just an argument, just wanted me out of the house, out. And which caused me, a lot of stress because I didn't have a job yet, had no place to go, and I was planning to go to college. We had all talked about college. And so that particular thing, it drove me to a lot of desperation. And then did eventually go to college. And then towards the end of that, my final semester, a big argument ensued. They were going through a divorce. And I basically got thrown out of the house. Well, in that conversation you and Kevin had about, I was the scapegoat, definitely. And so in that, when I get thrown out, I was so desperate. That's when I think I started this whole thing where I couldn't control my emotions. I pulled the car over I had and just was crying my eyes out. And I said, oh, screw this. I'm going to ask for help. So I told, hey, I never had a adult male friend in my life. I need something. And would you do it, Creator? Would you be my father that I never had? And the emotion stopped at that time. It was like, that's good enough. So then, in about another couple of days, I met up with a best friend I had, and he had the LSD. So we took a really large dose, and it was, I had never taken that much before. We'd taken small amounts once before, and that just made me aggressive, kind of accented the frustration in me. But the large dose just confused the heck out of me. He had put on electric light orchestra, and it just took me away. Like the LSD, the psychedelic effect was just like, oh man, the music would just took away, took me over, and it kind of panicked me at the time, and I had him shut it off. But when he shut it off, there was suddenly this impulse, and I was trying to remember something, and I got locked in this funny, like, what is it? 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 And then all of a sudden, bam, oh, and there was this total illusion, like, okay, you're walking up these stairs, and I open this door, and right there is this white light intelligence, and we're communicating telepathically, and, and it's one of the things I learned from psychedelics and meditation is there's a nonverbal level where the bandwidth for communication just expands like crazy, and we can communicate with intention and feeling and know what we're each saying right now. There's no interpretation problem. Oh, what did you mean? You know what a person means. You know where they're coming from. So there was that. And in that, I came away from it with this idea that, well, in the future, we'll use music and light to coordinate a meeting in space-time. So my consciousness will be listening to music, and that's where I'll be, so they can find me. And that did work later. After that initial communication, I walk down those illusionary stairs and meet my friend, and he says, "Did you get an answer?" And this light went off in my head, and then this over voice said, "Hey, I want you to know how I feel about you, and I want you to see how I perceive you." And so it was this giant star, and then how it felt about me was just love like I never felt before. It actually gave me a feeling of belonging I never had. So that really changed things for me. I knew who was in charge, not my parents anymore. It was like, okay, we can give up parenting. We're on a new path. I'm in charge of it now. What I've done here is where I'm going. That all became very symbolic trip because that's what I knew at the time was basic Christian mythology. And so it was, there was, the constellations in the sky all changed. I remember seeing that and going, wow, what the heck, and then we went out and the moon had turned into a white light and with these clouds around it, actually on the front cover of a book that opened up and the pages would turn. And then the moon beams were the spiritual content, hope, love, patience, and understanding. And I really could see there that understanding is absolutely complete. I mean, a lot of us, think we can't be understood. Oh, no. Mankind's been around for a long time. None of us are clever enough to come up with something never been seen before. So they can understand, they can forgive, it's just infinite, and so that really stuck with me. And then that was kind of the end of that first experience was, we're here, you can believe what you believe, it'll work, we're good. And at the end of that trip, there were arrows on the road pointing away from my friend's house. And this happened several times, and I wondered, what the heck is that? I think what it was really telling me is you need to get away from your friend because I think, I suspect he had this weird personality trait where, you would build trust as a friend, and then he would always violate that trust. And he thought it was fun to do, but I saw it as a dangerous, habit. And I told him I didn't like it, and he just laughed. So I think he was. I expect, he did things during trips that screw with me, and, and it became our LSD experience became very much my thing versus his thing. He was with his girlfriend, and all he wanted to do was screw his girlfriend, and I was on this trip, like, hey, what, I've got entities, coming, and I've got all these things in my head, and and we're trying to figure out what reality is and stuff. And so in the next trip we had, it was, I had gone through a lot of peaks and valleys, and some of them were just gorgeous, and I began to get this idea that, man, I know how to work this. Wow, there's something here that's familiar. And that's when I found myself in kind of a future person. It kind of felt like I was in the future, but everything was balanced. I knew everything was finished, and I realized, oh, this is a goal. This is who I could be, because it's definitely not who I am now. So, okay, I'll use that as my goal. And so I did. And yeah, I can say it now at 64. Yeah, we're there. I mean, everything is cool, everything figured out, all the stress is gone, all that uncertainty is gone. There's still something else that, that came out of this is it does add to your life.
Yeah.
It does enrich your life. It expands what you are about.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah,
Can I ask a few questions if you don't mind?
you bet.
This is beautiful. Just for our listeners, if just want to give a bit of a context. So Dean is a dear friend of mine. We met years ago on a social self-transformational platform, and Dean has a very interesting story. Really moved me, especially with LSD experiences. Dean, what's really fascinating is for me that you had this experience with your friend. He was just there for the party, for the fun, for the tripping, but somehow you experienced it completely different, and it almost like changed the whole trajectory of your life. What do you think was going on there? Why did he not have the same experience? Because this is very important for me to ask you this as we're talking about psychedelics. A lot of people think that they do the same thing for everybody. Obviously not.
Oh no, no, we're all individual. I think what happened, part of it was his dad passed away. I think it was 2 years before that, and he never really, he didn't process the grief like I think was very healthy. Like, he blamed God, and it had all these negative feelings, or things to say, and I thought, that that's not going to you're eliminating, a possible help or solution. Um, he also, I think, became, because it was obvious I was, having a different trip. He became kind of jealous of it, kind of acted like, you know, well, you're getting all kinds of help. I'm not getting any. Well, you're not asking for any. You're being an arrogant. You're telling the powers that be what they should do for you. That's not going to work. I mean,
Yeah.
even if it's your own mind, you can't do that.
Yeah. And what age are we talking about? How old were you both?
Oh man, we're 18. You know,
That's a
uh,
very young age, Dean. I mean, especially we're talking about decades ago.
yeah.
At the time, emotions, I mean, try talk about your emotions. Like, what are you talking about? Is the biggest stigma
Oh,
around it, right? Especially for boys like your age at the time.
yeah. Well, my mother had told me at one time, well, men don't have any feelings. Well, that confused the fuck out of me, man. For I don't know, for years as a teenager, I thought, feelings? What are feelings? You know, I know what, we have these emotions, like, I can be angry, I can be frustrated, you know, it, as a, as a young boy, I knew I was immature. Um, we all were immature. My, the kids in school, the other boys in school, they, maybe I was a little more advanced a little bit, but they all seemed like, just childish, stupid. And, of course, at that time, the hormones just rage, so a lot of it was just stupid hormone shit. It just, uh, and for me, is I had always been kind of very analytical. So it just
Yeah.
grabbed the analytical
Um,
part of me.
yeah, almost sounds like you were also very sensitive, attuned to
Yes.
environment, attuned to people and their behavior. Thank you for sharing that because I think one of my passion project, as you may have heard of it, is understanding the gender politics. Like, for years and
Oh,
years and years, historically, we've been told that men don't have emotions, they shouldn't be crying. And then women supposed to be the one with, I get that, completely get that. But, for the way that I studied and understood it, actually men are very much in their body and they're very much connected to their emotions and they're very much sensitive than we
yes.
can ever know. It's actually the other way around. Women are disconnected. They live neck above. For me, anyway, I understand that women, it's almost like it's very threatening for them to be in their body. Therefore, they live neck above mostly in the mind. And I feel like the women's minds are like more like a web. It's a very complex web, unlike men. So we've taught, we've learned this the other way around. It's fascinating how now we're learning it's not like that at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I kind of, well, you had asked me if I get emotional thinking about the past. Actually, I do think that those things were blessings in a way. They drove me to investigate, like, oh, I don't have feelings. What the hell are feelings? And, and we're off on the path to figure out how does that work. No, then I think my observation is I think women have the knob turned up. You know, it, the depth of feeling and emotion is more significant for women. So when men and women encounter the same stimulus, a man may just go, okay, it can be handled. Not much emotion, not much feeling. On the other hand, the female may be going, oh shit, it's, and they don't understand that. But, it, be, what I found is, we're this. There isn't that much difference, really. It's the way we've been conditioned to believe in ourselves, and that was something I found when during these LSD experiences that, oh well, there's a part of me that's all this crap I've been told about me, and that's not true. That doesn't have to be true. That's stuff I'm choosing to fulfill. Have to, a lot of uh, men I've encountered along the way, they fulfilled roles. Well, this is true for women. They fulfilled these roles without really even thinking about it. I mean, yeah, I'll be a father. But wait a minute, and I talked to a lot of them in my age group. They kind of regret their choices. It's like they weren't really true to themselves. And what I found is, well, when I was young, I thought, well, you know what? Everybody always does this one thing. They get married, they have children, all this stuff. Why doesn't anybody choose to do anything different? And so I said, I'm going to choose to be different. I don't have to go down the same path everybody else does. And besides, the LSD basically told me I'm multidimensional. I got this other life that I lived. This is not worth working on. This is worth saving, and later on, I've kind of figured out, well, this is kind of what I asked for. I set this up. I wanted an unstable life, so it would force me to think differently about life. You can be successful. You don't have to reproduce to be successful. You can be fruitful and multiply within your own sphere of self. You don't have to go produce children or make lots of money or.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate this. It's like the biopsychosocial conditioning of we all must get married, have kids, and have a house, pay for the mortgage until the end of our lives. That's the
Yeah.
setup, right? Mm-hmm. And this is a great question to be asking. Why don't we ever do anything different than that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I was told a long time ago. I remember this. It was like a fourth grade teacher told us all, well, the only thing that defines you as human is your ability to choose whether to reproduce or not. Thought, oh, so if I chose not to be human, not to reproduce, I'm still human. Oh, okay.
How was that? How did that informed your life? Not choosing to, go by the steps of the societal expectations, choosing a different path. How did that? Not wanting to have children, not wanting to buy, not wanting to go through the same processes. How did that inform your life? Did you struggle? People judge you? Did you feel any judgment?
Oh yeah, there were. The family think I'm weird. I don't care. Fine. I don't have to meet other people's expectations, right? I mean, human beings are, way I see it, everybody's on their own path. You do your thing, I'll do mine. I mean, your answer is not my answer. Even Buddha said, I'm the master of my way. You have to be the masters of your way. There are many different masters. I'm just one of them, and so that reinforced my feeling, make my own choices.
Yeah.
That I did, though, I had, as because I'm kind of denying that to myself, I had this power in me, oh, well, this intense curiosity about other people's relationships and how they worked. I never saw one that I liked. I don't, the dynamics between men and women, as long as they operate on their conditioning, it's just, it just doesn't look good, and I think that's why at US we have 49% divorce rate. People go into these things with these fixed expectations and they don't allow themselves to grow. And they don't forecast to see, well, which way are we growing? And so people grow apart or they don't grow at all, you know. And
Yeah. Yeah. And like my concept of it is that it's almost like when you are with somebody in a relationship, it's almost like not the grown-ups are in relationship, but the toddlers are in relationship. Their internal, like inner toddlers are in relationship with one another, right? So
right.
it doesn't
Right.
allow the growth anyway, because there's a constant conflict the toddlers are in that
Yes.
container of whatever that relationship is, whether it's a marriage or if they're spouse or girlfriend, boyfriend, there is this conflict situation that it doesn't allow one or the other. And when one eventually breaks out to do some self-growth, the other one either falls away or gets left behind.
Panics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like you said, exactly, or the other way around, panics, feels threatened, and then more arguments along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting back to my friend, his relationship with his girlfriend allowed him, I think, to stay in this child state where, everything's unfair, you know, uh, I don't have any power,
Yeah. Like,
I'm just going to do drugs and screw my girlfriend. I don't have to change or do anything,
yeah.
He
Like,
eventually destroyed himself with methamphetamine. And
wow.
it was really sad to see. I mean, he just fried his brain completely. And, I I don't know, that really affected me. I had seen my stepdad destroy himself with alcohol. Both of them sort of decayed in the same way. And it really, I kind of blamed myself for it a bit. I thought, these people seem to be reacting to me and this is what they got themselves into. What the hell, And, but later I kind of said, that can't be. These people made their own choices. They're
Yeah.
just blaming me because I'm around,
Yeah, it's like the grown-ups when they cannot take responsibility. The children, they kind of like scapegoated, or at least
Yeah,
children assume, children, look at the divorced families. Mostly all children are in therapy, and one of the biggest, right? And one of the biggest deep limiting beliefs they carry is that because of me, like I was the
exactly.
reason of their unhappiness.
Exactly. I when I was a senior in high school, I looked up what how successful children are from single families, and it was abysmal. It was like 70% of them are in jail. The other 30% are mentally ill in therapy, have terrible, are not likely to succeed. There's some percentage of them that do succeed, but they don't reach the heights of success that people with families do. And when I looked at my own situation, I said, well, yeah, that's probably has a lot to do with, again, this conditioning, these expectations, and this blame. Like I had nightmares for 5 years about it was this guilt thing, that a crime had been committed and I hid the evidence, but I don't know what the evidence is. And I don't know. It just drove me crazy. I would wake up just screaming, and eventually I just figured it out. Oh, this is guilt. I I'm carrying this guilt from this damn divorce, and my friend and all these things that have happened. Oh, shoot, and then the
Yeah.
dream stopped. The nightmare stopped after that. So it was, I found
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, look, it's an incredible journey you have, honestly, because coming from a trauma-informed psychotherapy myself,
Yeah.
now we have a the biggest challenge we have now is the information overload, right? So
Yeah.
even the most outside, you might think people that are so outside of the therapy and healing, they so familiar with the name, the words like trauma and, like all these things that, right now is just kind of circulating in the mainstream. At least a lot of people are familiar with therapy. A lot of people are reading a lot of self-help books. Interestingly, they get coaches, they hire, they take courses, they go to workshops. There's a lot that is going on, right? And yet, from my perspective, what I'm observing is that majority of the people, they cannot break out of their imprints. Like they cannot break out. They have a one-on-one coaching sessions and they do the incredible learning processes. On top of that, I mean, I don't even want to go to the psychedelic experiences. I know people who sat in like 50 ayahuasca ceremonies and they cannot even articulate what you have just shared with us about figuring this out yourself, being guilty of parents' behaviors and their decisions, taking all on, and then working this out and liberating yourself on your own is unheard of. Currently, we live in such a borderline codependent society.
Yeah.
That everybody's expecting someone to give them the answer, give them the healing, give them the everything on readily, available. But the thing is, how did you even work this out? Because right now we have, again, courses and books on psychedelic guidance. People are really directly accessing information from many years ago. It would have been a dream to know so much about psychedelics, right?
Yeah.
Even then, they cannot figure out their problems and they cannot even, or at least, shall we say, have the courage to look at their relational, because the trauma is a relational, imprint, right? So I'm guessing we're now living in a codependent borderline society where we can't even, it's a taboo to look at inside your home, in your relationships, your partner, your children, your parents, right? And you were only young and you just stumbled upon LSD. God knows, it could have been something else.
Yeah.
It seems like universe was on your side, favoring you. And you were able to unpack everything to liberate yourself from a lot of things on your own. And that is remarkable, to say the
Thank
least.
you. Yeah, I too think it's a miracle from what I've seen. I guess well, these, faith worked for me. A lot of people say, "Oh, nothing ever happens," and I kind of get into that too. Except for then I get reminded, no, it's but the faith actually works. And what I learned is that no, it's not what you learned in church. It's what you need to be more direct. You need to think for yourself. Don't go there. So it was me developing. Okay, you're telling me I need to develop problem solving skills. I need to be, well, I asked for a guy, and so that's what I got.
I was just going to say that. I think the reason you had such a profound experience with the medicine, you were going through a lot of grieving because of the parental situation. And you were about to be kicked out of your home. And obviously, there was this, reminds me of Caroline Myss, when she says, you got to pray like, bearing your bones kind of praying and really asking for help. Stop being afraid of the God, but the God just speak to it, to the universe or God, whoever you think it is
Yeah.
out there, the higher power, and really ask as if you're asking a friend, like, just help me, like send me something, an answer, person, whatever. And I feel like you had that deep intention of asking for help, and there it was. There
Yeah.
it was.
Well, I was driven to desperation, which is usually when people have breakthroughs. There was
Yeah.
nobody, nothing. I mean, I had lost everything. And they betrayed everything we agreed on. So, yeah, it was like,
It was like, do or
what,
die, do
what
or
am I going
die.
to do now?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah. So, and I think, yep, yeah, that's where we had to get you to accept, a new direction, these tools to help. And all the trips, they changed how I, well, see other beings. I mean, I believe we're all beings. We're all trying we don't know what we're doing. I mean, that was the other thing that came out of it is there's no real blame. You're all, y'all didn't know what to do to begin with. And then you've been going along here and, it's kind of complicated how we got into human form, but, part of that, well, I tell you, my fear for us as humans is the longer we choose to stay human, the more human we become, and might lose the sophistication over time. And then it's going to cause some kind of reset because I really think that humans and the earth have gone through several development cycles. And like, I really think we're living right now, we're mining the garbage left by another civilization, all the oil and the gas. And, that past advanced civilization was completely folded under and lost. And it sort of seems to me like it's a reduction, which would be consistent with time and space, which is everywhere a reduction of things. And so even self-assembly proteins follow a kind of reduction in the way they build and up, and it looks to us like life because it's building, but it's actually following this chemical energy fall. It's just fascinating, and that's what time, it's another thing we did. I'm analytical. So we go out and analyze time. What the heck is time? Well, it's this process, and it's necessary because we need progression. We need to move forward, and we can't move forward unless the former things pass, right? So that works in our minds as well. This is another trick I used, which is, time destroys the moment. So when we look back, we're looking at something that's been destroyed and mutated by time, not really looking at the past as it was. We're looking at when it was now, it was completely different. So that also like eroded some of that, um, integrity of those things.
Yeah.
Also, as I learned more about how we sample reality, it's like we're looking through a straw, really. Our eyes see little spots, and then we scan like crazy to build a picture. And then our brains interpret that picture into reality. Man, when you think about all those steps, it's like, it's a wonder we share reality at all. But that's why we're here, to share a reality, because we've lost the ability to share it any other way. And that is something that these psychedelics keep showing me is no, there's another reality we share. It's the command of all reality, all dimensions, everything.
Yeah.
We can all be in a place where we are in command of everything. So that little human form you're in, and this funny, I was in what I think this had mushrooms. I think this happened on mushrooms. It was in this like spot, standing on this like bluff. You might think kind of like with another companion, and companion saying, hey, look at yourself. Look at how small you are on that little planet. and and I thought, hey, you're right. Just how significant could anything be that affected me then? And companion just, I could feel the smile or the delight. And so then we did that again. And then it really settled down in me. Oh, okay. I can put this life in perspective along with all the other experience I've had. This is the way we're supposed to do it. And it's very balanced then and very, very insignificant. I mean, it's what was life for? Well, it's to turn me around. It's to make me a better person. This is the way I used it. And then also the realization from that was, we can all live a life without sin, without error, as long as it's for a purpose. If we live life self-indulgently, it's an error. It's really the only error you can make. Selfishness,
Yeah.
And it's not selfish to want yourself to be better. That's not selfishness. That's not even narcissism. It's your survival. It's what you're supposed to be doing. Well, we are infinitely powerful. We have the capacity, infinite wisdom, and I've always believed ever since I was a kid that my brain was the limiting factor. Like memory should be infinite. Intellect should be infinite. Mind should be infinite because there can't be any limit to it. Even if I claim that I'm just tied into every other human being here, well, we're all on the same frequency. All of our minds must be on the same plane or level. So why can't what I learn or what others learn then be a leverage for me, right? And so that's what was my hope, really, was that, like as more people learn, more people develop skills, more people understand, we'll all leverage we'll hit a tipping point, maybe, where humankind will actually jump up a level in consciousness and
Yeah.
dispense with a lot of things from the past.
Yeah. Very powerful. Very powerful
Yeah.
indeed. I love this analogy. But you also validated the two things that I was thinking about, especially in psychedelic use. One is leverage is where the leverage that you have in your life gets you far. The level of suffering and this like do or die moment is really the key to kind of be very open to acceleration in consciousness. I think this has happened to you.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, reminds me of Donald Hoffman. He talks about, I don't know if you heard of him speak, but he talks a lot about all humans. All humans wearing like a headset, talks about headset where we kind of very limited in our perception. Like the reality we assume or we see is actually the very tiny part of a reality that filtered through our perception. And he calls it we're wearing a headset. And I feel like what you are suggesting is that if we can collectively learn, outgrow our limitations and let go of the past and move forward, you're saying that there is probably like almost like what is it? The Rupert Sheldrake talks about morphic resonance, where we can all tap into something more powerful.
Yes.
That can help us move forward. These are great concepts, but I want to bring us back to the other side of the story, which is that I find also I have a question with that to you, Dean. Do you think when people are, well, one of my observations is that people can't change because they now, by the time their pressure cooker is kind of exploded, they have made decisions. They've created children. They spent too long in a career or in a relationship. It's like there seems to be a lot at stake, and even the psychedelics can't help that with that, because it means you may have to walk away with some of these things. And how would you walk away from children, right?
Right. Right.
So, and I feel like those are the kind of people that are seeking desperately the growth and the psychedelic help and therapy, but at the same time, it's very challenging because they also carry a baggage of like now shame, and
Yes.
which they perceive as mistakes and too long being in a situation for too long. And now the children, like you can't give them back.
Right.
So,
Right.
and they seem to struggle a lot more with this self healing and progress, in my observation.
While I had a career, I worked in an aerospace casting company that, we built parts for jets. Okay. Well, there was a point in my life where I thought, boy, is that the right thing for me? But uh, the way the way it got processed was, well, there's no condemnation in doing. You live in a world where you have to meet the demands of that world. There's no crime in having children. There's no crime in having a family. That's a noble choice. The fact that we feel at times, well, maybe that's not the right choice. Well, that's going to be natural. It's somewhat natural for us to toggle around doubt and faith and investigate how we got there. In my career, what I learned, and this is kind of funny, is, well, this happened just recently. So if you look at your life and how everything worked and the messages it was sending you, well, you worked in an industry that was doing what? It was taking raw materials and transforming them into a finished product. What did you do? You transformed yourself from one thing to another. You see, it's all one choice and it's all one thing. And it was, I was like, wow. I thought, oh, that's really cool. So it's still consistent that things that are true all the way through. And this is how I am true all the way through, that even my career reflected my own internal process. I really also, the job really helped me grow up a lot. And the interaction that helped me, it just helped. It's another thing. We should not be afraid to live our lives. We have to. Like, early on in those LSD trips, I got so good at just managing and go off in these beautiful dreams, like things, ugh, and then come back from that, and at one point they had basically asked, "Hey, oh, you want to be a god or you want to be a man?" And I just instantly answered, "No, I got to live this life and earn it. I've got to fix this thing." And okay, you know,
Yeah.
and that's an honorable choice, and ever since then it's been just, yep, we got you. I've seen uh, the master in every house I've bought over the years, at least once. And I was experimenting with a stuff called divine, what the heck is it? Divine sage, whatever. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it makes
Hmm.
you just goofy as hell. I uh, tried that a couple times, and the reality just completely just gets destroyed. And oh, there he was. He was on this like purple ribbon of light, and just waving at me. So it was like they're just there. Um, oh, also just recently I saw a ghost of my mom. Um, she in my house. Now these ghosts and these visions, they're projected right over the top of your visual field. They don't exist in time and space. They exist in you or me. And so she said she was sorry. And okay, I mean, I thought that was pretty fascinating that would show up and she would say,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, you know, very, very, all very good.
Beautiful, beautiful. It's like what I'm hearing from you is about not trying to fix and become a clean slate, but do the best with what we have. The decisions that we made, they're not
Yeah.
failures.
Yeah. The saying is play the cards you're dealt, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and, and, a lot of things I heard like early in life, well, life isn't fair and all that. Well, it seems pretty fair to me, really, looking back on it. I will say that it's worth it because when my closing years of work, it really paid off. You know, the stability, the maturity, the able to deal with things, and and the feelings I had of accomplishment. Even now, I really, really enjoy the fact that, oh, we did it. We succeeded. You know, I didn't think it was going to happen. There were many times, but it all worked out. And people had told me early on, oh, it'll work out. Don't worry about it. Just keep trying. And I see a lot of that today. Same kind of frustration, the same kind of, oh, it'll never work out for me. It's failure. Things are too expensive and all that. Well, things were too expensive for me too. I mean, you know, I didn't think I would ever have a house. I have one. What do you know? I mean, uh, yeah. And, things to get back to just using psychedelics. I mean, they, they just expand my life. They expanded my understanding of it, and the possibilities. This is something I told my mother when she was still alive. Is Mom, really got to allow more probabilities in life, or all aspects of life. We can't box things in and say, oh no, it has to be this way. That's like saying to someone else, no, you have to be what I want you to be. you can't be yourself, which is
Yeah.
something uh, I had to learn early on. The master told me, I'm not going to be what you want. I'm going to be what I am. You need to change.
I
And
love that.
yeah.
Mhm.
And, that's also, I could see that's where we're breaking down in relationships. Is
Mhm.
we, because of hormones, basically, and that whole love is blind thing, we don't really allow the other person to be who they really are. We don't really see how the other person really is because we're anxious. Hurry up,
Yeah.
seal the deal, and and boy, and then afterwards, it's like, what the hell, I mean, who is this person, Well, you could also ask, who the hell are you at the same time? Why did you make this choice? Which, I think, on my mother's behalf, I think really she came from a traumatic background as well. She never
Yeah.
talked about it, and that's what really informed the way she saw me. She really saw me as, this big kid, as a man, you know. Um, Also, I think she's pretty narcissistic, along with her second husband. So they really hated the fact that I attracted attention. You know, they
Wow.
would, I looking back on it now, that's exactly what they were doing. They would like put me down in public so that the attention would focus on them instead of me.
Yeah. Very toddlery behavior indeed.
Yeah, yeah, it was like, hey, yeah, and
Mm.
no, so a lot of this has helped me. Okay, I can put that into place now instead of just thinking, oh, it's so unfair, you know, uh,
Absolutely.
and that's why I've always wondered who taught me to feel bad about this. You know, I mean, for one thing, there are the actions, these physical actions that people can do, but then there's just stuff they say. Why should that be so harmful? You know, well,
Mhm.
you know, and thinking about it, well, if you love somebody and you think you're in this loving relationship and they're really pissing all over you with their words, that's going to hurt because it broke the deal. Broke, you thought you could love and they're not loving you. So, yeah, that's going to hurt. But, there must have been something. You must have been able to see this beforehand. I mean, there had to have been some clue, because people just don't instantly turn bad.
Yeah.
It's a habit, you know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and they things are still working on me, like my bad habits, like chewing my fingernails and things. I'm becoming more aware of my bad habits. I I need to change myself. Still, it's never
I love this. Yeah.
project.
I love this. This is it. Like ongoing, infinite unfolding of the self.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
beautiful.
and it's fun. I can't really describe the kind of fun it is, but it's very satisfying on a very deep level when things change. Like I one of the feelings I get quite often is like inside goosebumps. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like, man, I being touched by somebody, and meditation one time here. Um, I started to perceive things moving, um, and this individual started walking towards me, and he walked right through me. I could feel it. It was like a breeze, you know, right through me. And I thought, wow, you know, and so things just keep expanding my, my expectation. Like, well, it's another thing I was told not to have any expectations, but it expands, what included in, oh,
Yeah.
there's just so much love and encouragement in it all. It's all just so positive. When I read the Buddha Sutras, um, uh, Buddha is probably the one thing that will evoke an emotional response out of me that I can't control, because so much of this is the kind of control that is talked about in the Buddha Sutras. When I read the sutras, it really made sense to me. And the, I really, and I, in meditation, I had 3 Buddhas show up and, and we communicated telepathically, and they, have showed up in several other things where we're just having a lot of fun, just a blast. Being, changing shape, creating new things. And that is one of the things I learned early on is not, what we did early on is we collaborated together to create the aspects of who we are now. We collaborated to create mind. We collaborated to create feelings. We collaborated to create, these aspects of consciousness. And we continue to improve, because this is what life does. Life is building on better. We continue to evolve these things. The problem with time and space is you're kind of stuck, and it's very hard to continually evolve when you're stuck in time and space. And that is, at least for me, I get the message, eventually we need to leave time and space in order to continue to grow the direction we want to grow in.
I love this. I love this.
Um,
Well,
I,
this,
I,
yeah,
yeah.
continue.
Well, I really think that Buddha and this the Christ idea, from a biological point of view, it's like, well, the species has found a new niche, a new way of being, a new way to be fully self-actualized. So you're not losing anything. You gain. And that, to me, is that's the fundamental force in life, is building better. Well, that's better. That's definitely better when you're beyond disease, beyond desire, beyond all this negativity, and you can just build on what's better. You're free, and I can't describe how much fun and delight that is. I mean, we need to grow beyond so we can really enjoy the trueness of life, which, and Buddha said, life in the earth is all suffering. Yeah, from a perspective, you can say that. But, you can, like what I did, you turn the suffering into a blessing and let it be the force that drives you forward. Don't be a slave to it and just, wallow in misery.
Wonderful. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Dean. Well,
Yeah.
I think these were amazing words of wisdom, and it's a good time to close our conversation here to continue, to be continued. I definitely feel like we need to continue the conversation and have you back sooner than I could imagine. Like, we really need to continue. There's so much positivity, empowerment, hope, everything that we need in this current wave. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and I would like to check back in with you also, because this is just a process. we keep growing in. I met all the objectives originally set for me, but also what that did, and like you have said, enlightenment is just, okay, but you still have to chop wood and carry water the next day. Well, to me, I don't know really what enlightenment is, but you definitely things, goals you set are really just another place to start from. And that's where this is done, is say, no, yep, you met the objective. Now that's a great place to start, the next
Amazing.
phase, so yeah, 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 don't give
Wonderful.
up, people. Don't give up.
I love that. What an empowering moment to share. Thank you so much, Dean. I'm looking forward to our follow-up conversation, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Please do comment, share if this is empowered you or triggered for you to share something. Drop it in the comments, get in touch, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much again. Bye for now.
Yes, and thank everybody for tuning in also.
Thank you so much, Dean. Have a
Thank you,
wonderful
Susan.
day. We'll be in touch very soon. Bye for now.
Yeah. Bye-bye.